Welcome back to our next lesson on the on and in approach. In the last lesson, I shared about the sudden death of my father. That's what thrust me into the leadership of our small family business. Immediately, I jumped in with both feet, devoting all of my ability, energy, and might to build the business. It was obvious we needed more revenue, and that was my main focus. I had to scrape and scrape and scrape to make it work. My wife still reminds me today that our weekly food budget was $20. At our company, one of the first things I had to do was to sit down with our 5 employees and ask each of them to take a pay cut. Yes, you heard me correctly. A pay cut. Those were the most difficult conversations I had ever experienced as a still wet behind the ears 20-year-old kid. I was shaking as I went into those conversations because I knew it was going to affect my employees' ability to support their families. To my surprise, all 5 employees accepted the change. I believe they accepted it out of respect for both my dad, because he really took care of his employees, and for me, because they had seen my work ethic firsthand on the moving trucks and at the storage warehouse since I was 12 years old. They knew I had always wanted to serve them rather than be served. To pay down some of the debt, I even sold my personal car. My dad really did take good care of his employees, and he had furnished 2 employees with vehicles that were used in the business. I knew I could not ask them to give up those vehicles just because I was on foot. However, I did ask one of them, who drove right by my house, to pick me up in the morning and take me home in the evening. He agreed, and he did so for about 2 years. Let's pause here while we reflect on your time as a leader. Have you ever had an uncomfortable conversation with an employee? How did you handle it? What are you doing today to win the trust, engagement, and buy-in of your employees tomorrow? For the next year and a half, I found myself working harder and harder in the business. I was working 7 days a week, always the first one to arrive and the last one to leave late at night. As you can imagine, I was in crisis mode every day. I was constantly reacting to pressing problems, deadlines, phone calls, and projects. I wore many hats, doing hands-on work in every aspect of our business to save labor costs, and applying Band-Aids to issues until I could get back to them. I was focused on tactical action steps, driving for results, just to meet our daily and weekly needs. As I began to lead our small company by day, I started fighting other problems by night. Worries plagued me like alligators trying to take me under. I was concerned about people, money and financing, government regulation, changing patterns of customer buying. The list was endless. Specifically, I worried about these 3 issues: increasing revenue, decreasing expenses, increasing productivity. After just a year and a half, I was about to burn out, working 7 days a week in the business and reacting to its daily and weekly demands. When dealing with all of the worries threatening to pull me under, I had to remind myself my initial objective wasn't to fight the alligators, it was to drain the swamp. As a leader, owner, president, or CEO, do you feel as if you're up to your neck in alligators? Do you feel like a concrete block has been tied to your ankles, pulling down even your best efforts? Does it seem like your results don't reflect your hard work? Do you wonder if you are a failure? I can assure you that you are not alone in your season of troubled waters. As I have mentored struggling leaders, department managers, owners, presidents, CEOs, and other C-level executives, I have found 85% of them are working harder and harder in the business. They're focused on the tactical action steps required to run the business on a daily, weekly, and monthly basis, just like I used to be. That means only 15% of leaders are working on the business, focusing on the overarching guiding beliefs and plans of their organization. Things like their core values, purpose, vision, super objectives or the mission, and strategic plans. Well, you no longer need to feel like you're sinking in an ocean of despair. Instead of working harder and harder in your business, there is a better way. A different approach allowed me to rise above the choppy waters and achieve better results for myself and my company. Dwight D. Eisenhower said, "What is important is seldom urgent, and what is urgent is seldom important." This is the reason for this course. I want to show you how to conquer what is important, working on the business while we work in the business.